When a tourist went on a solo adventure in Africa, he would spot something that would change his life. Damien Vano, 43, spotted something strange on an elephant's back. When he took a closer look, he couldn't believe his eyes. But still, Damien still be in time to call the police when he finally got the confirmation he was looking for. But before we start, make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. With the helicopter in the air and tourist Damien and his guide in a vehicle on the ground, they were chasing the herd of elephants down as quickly as they possibly could. If Damien was right in what he had seen, there would be no time to lose. They eventually encountered the herd again at a small water basin, far removed from any civilization. They had to be careful now as they did not want to spook the animals. But Damien quickly saw that they were luckily not too late, at least not yet. Now that he was sure of what he had seen, he immediately called the police. He knew they could not do this alone, and maybe they did not have much of a choice. But what did Damien spot among the elephants? Why did the police have to get involved, and would they be able to bring this mission to a successful end? Elephants are thought to have a mystical character, a kind of intelligence that we as humans hardly know anything about yet. Since they are the world's largest mammals on land, most people see the animals as gentle giants. And yet, the locals that have to deal with elephants on a regular basis are far more aware of the potential danger they possess. A herd of elephants had been repeatedly causing havoc in South Africa for a while now, and they mainly seemed to target the small villages. Mostly the group was destroying things around, plundering all the food they could get their trunk on. Apart from the damage they caused, they sometimes were stealing items from the villages as well. In the most recent action, the elephants pulled such a stunt that they actually took something very valuable with them. The infamous herd left the local village devastated, while the villagers had no means of chasing the elephants. It happened at the edge of a rural area with no major cities around, a place at which no authorities felt involved enough that they were going to help them. The villagers needed a miracle, which came to them in the form of a tourist named Damien. Damien is a hard-working millionaire that would plan an exotic solo adventure every few years. It was his lifelong dream to go on a month-long trip alone in the lesser populated areas of southern Africa, and thus he had been planning this for quite some time. He was heading for the outskirts of the African plains, and while most people opt to go for such a safari by means of a four-wheel drive, Damien went for another option. Perhaps a jeep would get you closer to the animals, but Damien had a clear goal for this month. The millionaire traveler was not completely alone on his mission. He was making the personal helicopter journey with a local guide. Included in the package was the service for the entire day, meaning that they also had the time to land the helicopter a few times a day to see the animals up close. From above, with Damien's aerial perspective and the guide's experience, the animals would be fairly easy to find. Soon enough, they found a large and active herd of elephants. Damien was excited to cross off the first item of his list, bringing him closer to his goal. He took out his 600 mm lens and looked at a couple of them in his camera viewfinder, when suddenly he saw something else in the herd. There was no doubt in his mind. He had to see this from up close, and so he immediately instructed the helicopter pilot to bring the machine down. At a safe distance, they landed as fast as possible. But when they landed, it appeared there was a problem. The herd was already much further away from them than they expected. The tour guide explained to Damien that the herd was already on the move the moment they spotted them from above. Not only Damien was stressed about the situation, the local guide was visibly tense as well. It turned out to be a difficult wait, as other animals were on the lurk, and not just some animals. A couple of lions had slowly approached the two after the helicopter had taken off. If the guide would not have had a gun with which he could fire a warning shot, who knows how he and Damien could have ended up. 30 minutes passed before the car finally arrived to pick them up. Was there any point in chasing the herd after they had been stuck here for such a long time? The two weren't sure anymore. Damien decided to turn on the radio cars and attempted to get in contact with the helicopter pilot, hoping that he still had eyes on the elephant herd. To Damien's relief, it did not take more than a coup of seconds to hear someone at the other end of the line. It was the pilot's voice explaining that he had eyes again on the herd and that they were not even that far away. The group had stopped at a small water basin only about a few kilometers away, and he had more good news to tell. The pilot continued by explaining that, as far as he could make out from all the way up in the sky, the elephants were still having something very unusual with them, and yet He could not make out exactly what his was, while he was quite sure that it was the same thing that alerted Damien in the first place. Damien's heart started to beat heavily again. They were trying to drive as fast as they possibly could. A little later, they were able to spot the basin at a distance. The safari truck driver suggested to park the vehicle on a flat field behind a tree line close to the herd, and so they did this. What they now had was somewhat of a vantage point to see the elephants. Finally, Damien could have a closer look at the group of giant mammals. He opened his backpack and grabbed his binoculars first. Through the trees, Damien checked whether he was able to spot the elephant that stood out to him from the helicopter. Within a few seconds, he had a view of it already, as well as the thing that was still on the elephant's back. Damien could hardly believe what he saw. There is a young boy on the elephant's back. Now that he knows for sure, Damien calls the local police and they end up rescuing the young boy and bringing him back to the village from which the elephants took him. Luckily, he is still in good health.